Everyone needs therapy.
Everyone does need therapy.
This is Renee,
And this is Irina.
and you're listening to Honey, I'm Healing.
We're so excited. We're like so honored too because on our podcast every month we do like a book of the month and you're our first authors to like have on here.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel so honored, honestly.
I've followed you on TikTok for I think like 2 months now from my like personal page because I obviously watch a lot of like TikTok book recommendation videos and there was one girl that recommended your book. So I saved it on my TBR and then when we were choosing our book, I was like, "Oh, September is like the I think the whole month is dedicated to suicide prevention." I was like, "We should do this one." And then we were like, "Hey, let's message him and see if he'd be willing to be on." So thank you again for joining super last minute.
Yeah, of course. No, and honestly, I mean, like you said, given the month and everything, I couldn't be more excited and privileged to be asked to do this. So I seriously do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You used to be an airline pilot, I read.
Yeah, so I've taken quite an interesting journey, to say the least. So I went to college for a little bit down in San Diego, at the University of San Diego. Um, but in the meantime, since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a pilot. It was something that, I traveled a ton as a kid. I was very lucky to be able to do that with my parents. And I just fell in love with traveling. And after high school, I saved up like a ton of money from working throughout high school and just traveled through Europe. I
So
did
cool.
like 12 or 13 countries that summer before college. And I was just like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I know this is what I want to do. So the path before was like, you got to go to college, you got to get a degree, and then you can go to flight school and you can be a pilot. That was just kind of the traditional path. So about a year into college, a lot of the airlines like American Airlines and Delta, and United, they kind of created like this academy for people who wanted to be pilots, and basically that streamlined becoming a pilot. So you no longer needed a college degree. You could just apply for the academy, and if you got in, then you can go ahead and become a pilot. So I was like, well, that's what I want to do. I know that I want to do that. So I switched from going to school at college to the academy down here in San Diego for American Airlines. And I was going through it about a year in, and I got my commercial license. I became a flight instructor and was really just like on the path to becoming a pilot. And then COVID happened, and
Hmm.
my world kind of shut down like it did for literally everybody, as we all know.
Yeah.
And I moved back home with my parents in the meantime while all the craziness of COVID was happening. And it was really the first time I think in probably my entire life where I really was just sitting with my thoughts, if that makes sense. I
Mm.
think myself, and I know a ton of people, you kind of just are in such a go mode, if that makes sense, where you're just okay on to this thing, and now I'm doing this, and you have all these goals in mind, and you don't ever really sit and talk to yourself and really listen to yourself. And COVID, it was the middle of COVID. I had nothing to do but sit in my childhood bedroom. And I really just was sitting there and was like, wait, do I actually want to become a pilot? Like, wait, is this actually what I wanted to do? So that whole conversation happened. And I realized like I don't know if this is actually what I want to do. And it was shocking. Like I'm sure a lot of people who kind of have had realizations like that before. Um, And then I realized at that time, like, what is something that I really have always wanted to do, whether it would make me money or what? Like, what's something I could do right now during COVID that would just make me happy? And that was writing. So COVID is really when I really started to write. I've always written since high school and, little stuff here and there. But during COVID, I really sat down and was just writing stories and developing
Mm.
stories. And yeah, long story short, I realized that that's what I wanted to do. And being a pilot wasn't conducive to like actually pursuing writing. So now I'm working a job that kind of allows me to really focus on writing in the meantime, and I couldn't be happier. Obviously, even this, for example, to have people come on and say, hey, we would like to talk to you because we really enjoyed your book. Like that is something that I really it couldn't dream about, honestly. Like I just wrote stories and have written stories for myself, and the fact that it's kind of impacted people is a really big deal. So yeah, that's kind of the story of what I was doing before and how I started writing.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
I think I can speak for both Irina and myself when I say thank you for following that desire and putting this out into the world. Um, I I think I had read that you were self-published too.
Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct.
So, I mean, that's incredible, and I just like I so honor that.
Hmm.
And just yeah, after reading this story and how beautifully you paint the tension of
Hmm.
both the person that's suffering and the people that are around and observing it and suffering also, it is so profoundly like just visceral. And so thank you so much for writing this and putting it out there. And yeah, it was just such a good, amazing story.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Renee said that beautifully. I guess for our listeners, we should kind of do a little summary of what
Yeah.
this book is about. And there will be spoilers, so go ahead and read the book first. But it's basically a journey from childhood to adulthood that follows um, four friends. Four, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
technically
friends, four
five.
friends, but there's like a sister involved. So
Yeah.
yeah, you could say
Mhm.
The
yeah, four friends.
sister tags
Yeah.
along. I'm the sister. I have three. I have three brothers, so I get it. Um, yeah, it follows four friends and their sister through a journey of kind of how they were friends growing up, and then one who attempts to end his life, and that kind of brings the group together. And they go, through this journey to kind of understand what he's going through. And I think they really try to, um, I, simpler terms, fix him or fix the situation. And through that, like there's a lot revealed of how they're all struggling with their own issues. And then there's just a major plot twist at the end that we didn't see coming. So
Mm-mm.
it's going to tear you up a little bit. But yeah.
That was a perfect summary. You're better
Yeah.
than me at my own job, so.
Okay. I also have to ask, how old are you?
So I'm 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Self published by
What'd you guys
26.
think? Honestly, you can tell me.
I thought 27
Okay.
because I thought surely, I mean, how long does it take to become a pilot?
So like I said, you're traditionally it was like, get your degree, and then go to flight school, which could take up to 2 years. But
Okay.
I was in like a streamlined academy, so I literally did it within a year basically, from like nothing to like commercially licensed, um, and everything like that. That does not include like jet, like those types of planes. Like you still have to go do that. But as far as like single engine, all that stuff, like yeah, I did all that in a year.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was like, he has to be older. I mean, to become a pilot and then have time to write a book and publish it. And it's been a year, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I knew you were kind of around the same age as us. Irina and I are both 30
Okay, right
because
on.
you had included a lot of Harry Potter references that I caught.
There
Um
are a lot of things
there
there where we're
there
like,
were that and like the Tony Hawk Underground like I was like, okay, this
yeah.
he knows.
Yeah.
He
No,
knows.
I mean beyond obviously like the real depth of the story and kind of like the message, like I just wanted to write something that made me feel like a kid again and kind of like nostalgia and everything. So I'm glad you guys picked up on certain things, and I know other people that are around our age have as well, because it's just I mean, it sounds biased, but I just feel like we grew up in the best time, right? There was no social media, there was no like,
Hmm.
there was television and stuff, but there was just people were still outside, if that makes sense. Like, I just hardly see kids outside nowadays, which is so sad. So yeah, I wanted to write something that felt like, hey, this is a piece of that childhood, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely think that it added an extra layer of relatability into the story as well, and just being able to really place yourself there. But yeah, I caught the like the Jamaican accent. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. Like I totally read it. I was like, that was I know what that was from, and
I was like,
Um,
what? I didn't
yeah, it
even.
went over her head. It's fine.
I'm glad. I'm
Hey, I
glad.
caught
That
other
is
stuff there.
that's a deep cut, so I'm glad you guys picked
Yeah,
that up.
yeah.
So we have like we have random thoughts that we wrote down while reading the book,
Yes.
and then we have some questions. The outdoor bar scene where Izzy explains how he feels, is this inspired by personal revelation or, someone who is close and near to you? Because as someone who, me, has never been in that headspace, it was really heartbreaking to feel his emptiness. Like, I just thought it was so unique, and uh, it wasn't even like a depression that you read. It was just this complete emptiness. And I just kind of want to know where that came from, because that was something that, I've never had an experience in chatting with someone who has been in that situation. So where did that come from?
Yeah, no, thank that that's a really good question. So what's actually crazy, the fact that you brought that up is I had that scene first before I had anything else in the book. Like I had that specific moment and that specific kind of I guess climax if you want to say
Mhm.
as the starting point. Like that's what I first envisioned. So that's really interesting that you bring that up first. But yeah, I guess it's a couple of things. So of course, along with other people, I can imagine. I definitely have suffered from mental health issues since I was a kid, really. But you don't really ever like think about it as much as you do as when you're an adult. When you really sit back and you're like, yeah, I think I actually was struggling a lot more than I gave myself credit for. Um, and I remember, during COVID, like I said, I just had this time to just sit with myself and really face stuff that I never faced because I was either running away from it or was just too busy with life in general. And
Mhm.
that scene specifically, I remember writing it and just feeling like, how would I portray to somebody if something was wrong without a specific trigger or like a specific trauma point? Because that's the thing is with the characters specifically and just with trauma specifically there's instances where there's not trauma where there's not a specific trigger to why people feel the way that they feel. And in my life I've definitely have come across things where I just feel horrible. I just feel like the world is ending, I guess is a good way to put it, but I can't really pinpoint why do I feel like that or what's really the reasoning. And I wanted to create a character like Izzy where you don't know why. You don't there's not a plain simple answer to what he's feeling. Um but he's feeling that way and he's valid to feel that way. And that's really where that whole story and that whole scene came from was just my own personal feelings and also feelings of people that I've talked to. I've also lost some close friends of mine to suicide and I've never known why. I've never gotten that answer to why that happened, and a lot of people don't get those answers. So I just wanted to portray that because I felt like there's a lot of stories where there's a reason. It's like this happened to them, and this is the
Mhm.
trauma that they're feeling, and you can kind of understand it. But I wanted to write something where it was like, this is just me. This is me. This is the problem. I am the situation. So yeah, that's kind of where it stemmed from.
Yeah.
Mm,
I think that's why that scene like touched me so deeply, is because it was like a little revelation. Because I mean, it's so true. When you do hear of someone that has done that, you're often left thinking, I thought they were so happy. I thought everything was great. Like, what was wrong? And
mm.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was heavy.
Yeah, uh, I also have struggled with mental health, and I just felt really seen in that like, oh, people have the like other people also have this inner monologue and these
Mm.
thoughts. And I love a quote that you had said when Buddy and all the friends were kind of addressing this with Izzy, and he was explaining why he like was acting the way, or like he was explaining himself, and he said, you don't get it, none of you do. You can't crawl into my head and feel what I feel or think the things that I think. I've always wondered what's wrong with me, but I finally realized it's just who I am. and I'm so done with being me. Like nothing's gonna fix me. And um, yeah, I think that that's that tension that I was talking about that I feel like you painted so beautifully of you can't fix that person, and that's a really hard thing. Um, and just yeah, I think yeah, that was definitely a really heavy scene.
Yeah. No, and I'm just again, it means the world that you guys, read it and see it and got something from it because I've explained this to people, and obviously when you write a book that's pretty heavy, and your family reads it, there's some interesting conversations that happen and stuff, and it's
Mhm.
like you were saying, like realizations and stuff, and I had to kind of sit down with them and just let them know, like, hey, even though this is, maybe things that I was feeling, or again, it's a book, it's not, this is not my story, like this is a book, like these are characters, but obviously, yeah, there's things that are drawn from personal stuff. But like it's important that I did write this because I had some family members who were just a little confused, or like, why would you want to put something like that out there? And it's like, for you, for example, Renee, it's like for
Mm-hmm.
people who feel certain ways and don't feel like anybody else knows what they're feeling, because it's not something you can explain sometimes. So yeah, just the fact that you, like you said, it made you feel a little less alone. That's basically the whole reason why I wanted to write the story, is if I can impact one person who reads the book, then my job is done. My job is complete. So yeah, again, I appreciate it so much.
And I think like that right there is why it's so important because in these situations, there is nothing any of them could have done. Um, I think he had his own kind of revelation point in the plot twist of um, Buddy, what happened to Buddy,
Spoiler.
that to him was his turning point. But that's not something you can like create, fabricate to help someone, like that was not fabricated. A lot of times we tried to encourage someone to go to therapy and we try to talk to them and that doesn't always work. So I think that's why it's so important to uh, decrease the and encourage people to go see someone who can help them with medications and decrease the stigma of that because that's really like the only thing biologically that can until they are in a better place to you know do other therapeutic things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm 100% a believer in therapy. I've gone to therapy, and I completely agree. I do think that there's ways to, mitigate stuff and kind of fight for yourself, I guess is a good way to put it. But yeah, there's also just personal and kind of life things that can happen in situations where you go, maybe that is, for better words, like a sign, or maybe that is something that I can kind of pull from and fight for. But yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, a little bit lighter topic, but this led me to question, did you grow up with like a good group of guys around you? Because the amount of words of affirmation from this group of men is really great. And I wrote, refreshing to see an emotionally mature group of men. So is that something that you have in your life and grew up with?
Yeah, I think I definitely had a solid core group of friends, for as long as I can remember. And a key aspect of like writing this book beyond kind of the mental health stuff was, you grow up, and you start to lose friends, and you start to kind of lose pieces of yourself, and you don't really ever know why it happens. It's just part of growing up, and it's a part of becoming an adult. So I really wanted to kind of hit that aspect of, you see the differences, in the friends when they're children versus when they're adults. Like, you can see how easy it is for them to just talk to each other as kids, and it's just like another day. It's they've seen each other probably 3 months in a row every single day, and then when they're adults, it's like it's been 6 months. Hey, how you been? How's the family? And it's kind of crazy to go from, as a kid and throughout high school and stuff, like really having a core group of people that you lean on all the time, to becoming an adult and having issues and having stuff that you're going through, and yeah, you can probably call that person, maybe see somebody for lunch or something, but it's just it's just different. Like you're not there all the time. And I wanted to kind of hit on that reality of how much it just sucks to grow up for
Hmm.
all sorts of reasons. Um, but yes, I did have a good group of friends growing up, and I still am good friends with a lot of them. And it's funny because again, like I said, friends and family, it's like, oh, is this book about you? Is this book about us? And it's like, hey, it's a book. You know, there's some things I pulled from, but you know, there's not necessarily you're not necessarily this character or anything like that. But yeah, I've always kind of been in the position of emotional vulnerability. Like since I was a kid, I would cry. I would, you know, I wasn't scared to kind of show my emotions, and that's not the same for a lot of men. You know, it's kind of like something that
Hmm.
you're taught as a kid is like, you know, you're a tough kid. You know, you're a tough dude.
Yeah.
You can be tough. You don't need to cry. I think in today's society we're doing a little bit better on that and not necessarily kind of pushing that on people as much. But definitely, I grew up in a time where it was weird that I would cry all the time. It was weird that I would tell my buddies like, "Hey, man, I love you. Like, I really appreciate you." And I think nowadays it's getting a little bit better. But I did want to kind of just write something where it was like, it's okay if you're a man and you're sad. Like you can
Yeah.
you can talk about it. You can be vulnerable. It doesn't make you any less masculine to be sad, and your friends are probably dealing with the same thing, and that's another thing. It's like you guys were saying, somebody can go through something, and you know, if they happen to end their life, they were so happy you never knew what was going on. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily have that in them, but a lot of people do deal with stuff, and everybody has issues and struggles. And leaning on that, like leaning on the fact that we're all going through something, it's okay to kind of show that, even if you are a man. And so yeah, I'm really happy you asked that question because it is a really key point just beyond the whole mental health aspect of the book, but like friendships and male friendships and just being open to each other is something that I really wanted to hit home on. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that one.
No, I loved it. I can say probably speak for Renee too that I'd say majority of the books we read are probably written by female authors, and the way they write male characters, they get it wrong. I think a lot of the times, or they write
Hmm.
what they think like women, if that's their target audience, want to hear. But I like so respected and loved the way you made these men emotionally available, mature, and vulnerable. It was so refreshing.
Yeah, thank you. And the same, a lot of the authors I read are women too, so I totally understand. It's just kind
Like
of
you
the
read it and
space.
you're like, I would never say that. A man would never
Yeah,
say that, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I see community being a huge, like really central theme in the book. And you had talked about kind of the characters. Are there certain elements of yourself in each character that you wrote, or did you pull from people in your life?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly. I wouldn't say I split my personalities into different characters, but I do see myself in each character, even the sister, because it's like there's aspects of each character that makes them so unique and so like pivotal to the story. Um, and yeah, there was definitely a mixture of like, okay, this is how I view myself in this character, and also whether it was like outside perspectives or different influences from different people. It was a little mixture, but yeah, that's basically the best way I would describe it. Is um, I see a little bit of myself in each character, and that's every character, even Stella, who we don't see too much, but
Hmm.
she's still heavily involved. Like I just kind of imagined breaking myself up and kind of splitting them all up into different pieces. So, yes,
Yeah,
So
that,
cool.
yeah.
Okay, question for you. Do you play video games?
of course, yes. But I guess I don't play as much anymore. Like I was heavily into video games as any kid growing up in like the early 2000s was. And then, once college started, I kind of dwindled down, and nowadays I try to if I'm bored, I try to write instead of play video games. But I still love video games. I think it's like something that you can get your lost in, which is for some people a bad thing, but in other ways it's like a really good thing. Sometimes you need that escape. Um, so yes, I love video games. I would play if I could every single day, but you grow up and you can't do it as much.
Was Peach's character named after Princess Peach?
Yes. It's
Yes.
not even a question. Yeah.
I
I was
knew
literally
it.
I was literally gonna say basically the only video games I still play is like Mario. Because I have a Switch, so it's like
Yeah,
yeah, Mario Party and everything like that. So
That's so
I love
funny.
that.
I literally started playing a game with my husband. My husband loves video games. There's the video game console behind that plant that I
yeah.
hide every week. Renee, you don't even know.
I didn't even know that.
Well, we started playing Overcooked. Have you ever played that?
It's the cooking one, right?
Yeah. Okay, we
Yeah.
almost like got divorced, but it is so intense. I'm kidding, but now I love playing it and he like is like get away from me. I do not want to play with you. But so the reason I brought up video games is I felt like you really like your writing and your personality like really shined and came out when they were having that Smash competition. I don't know what it was about it, but it was like boom, 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 intense and just like so it felt so real.
Yeah, no, thank I that is amazing to hear because that was like something that again, it's weird, really weird. I don't know. I haven't spoke to like a lot of authors and their writing process. But for myself, I see scenes. So like I see as if it's like a movie playing in my head.
Hmm.
Um, and that was another one. That was another one where it was like, I don't know how these characters get to this place. I don't know what it even means to be in this place, but like I see this scene for these characters. And yeah, when I was writing it, I was like, this is exactly how it's gonna go. This is exactly how you're gonna feel. I want you to feel like you are a part of the competition. And yeah, obviously I played Smash a ton as a kid, so I had some things to pull from. But yeah, it was another. That's just another one where I was like, this is a scene I see in my head, and I hope that I can articulate it well. And it sounds like I did, so I that's really awesome.
I
Yeah.
felt it. Did you, Renee?
Yeah, it was very serendipitous, but very intense. Like I was you just placed the setting and like just the emotions so well. Just the adrenaline and yeah, it was so good.
Thank you. I'm so
Yeah.
glad. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, that one stood out for me. Can we talk about what a train wreck West is?
Yeah, yeah, I would love to.
When he invited Elle, I was like, "Are you? What are you doing?"
Yeah, but
And
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, 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 go on.
I was just gonna say it's like I don't know if you guys have anybody in your life like that, but
Yeah,
I've had people in my life where like they think they're helping, and they truly think that this is going to help, and they have no ill intentions behind it, but it's just like you are an idiot. Like what are you actually doing? So yeah, I West, there's a lot of that. It's a lot of that, and like I said, I have pieces of myself in every character, and like I definitely have tried to mend situations and have really missed the ball on things, and it's like you gotta love them, but you also are just like, oh, I hate you right now. So
yeah. And the part
Yeah.
like where he ran past the workers
Yeah.
and like just took a massive RV up a mountain when rocks are sliding down.
Just a little impulsive.
Read
Yeah.
just a
the
little bit.
room. Read the room.
He's got his own issues.
Yeah,
That was so funny.
that the RV going up the or like past the guards. I was like, what is going on? Like
I know.
what? But yeah, like that was
An-
funny.
Another funny part, and I literally laughed out loud because we snowboard in our family, and we have an 8-year-old, and we started teaching her when she was 6, and it was like you'd think we were committing murder putting her up on the mountain, but when you wrote your dad was committing an act of child abuse bringing you up here as a kid, I laughed because like we would put a GoPro on I would put a GoPro on Haven to record her, and I would bribe her with like gummies every time she'd go down or like get off the slope. I'd give her gummies, and you like in the GoPro you can hear her, just do it for the gummies, do it for the gummies.
No, yeah, seriously. I mean, I I grew up in Las Vegas, which is like really close to like Bryan Head, Utah, and Big Bear, California. So there's like some really cool places to go snowboarding that's only like a 2 hour, 3 hour drive away. Um, but I was just never keen to it as a kid. Um, and I remember like I was in college, like just started college, and some of my buddies had been snowboarding since they were literally like 4 years old. Like they're incredible at it. And I remember like feeling like I broke my back, like legitimately scorpioning, where you like your
Mm-hmm.
legs go over your head and everything.
Yeah.
And I was like out for the count. Like I literally couldn't snowboard the rest of the weekend. Um, and I remember just being like, why do we do this? This is horrible. Like, this is literally just painful. But obviously, like if you're good at it,
It's the
it's
best.
amazing. So yeah, I totally feel for the child abuse part because I just I just don't know how. And there's kids just flying down the mountain. They're so talented, and it's like here I am, a 20-year-old kid, and I can barely stand up. It's like ridiculous.
Oh, that's so funny. I mean, it's tough, but that was
Yeah,
so funny.
I'm better now. I'm better now. So that's all that matters.
Was there any significance between the dates that you chose?
Oh, good question. No, not specifically. There's nothing that's like, this date specific that matters. It's more so originally I didn't put month and day. It was just a year. Um, but I figured like, oh, that might be a little bit, I want you to kind of understand the season it's in, or,
Mm-hmm.
when you read October versus like June, you get a different sense of the setting and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So no, there's nothing specific as opposed to what the days mean. But there is like I did actively think, oh, if I'm just putting a year to show like, oh, now they're 13, 14, 15, like you're not going to really feel if it's June, it's the end of school, that they're all feeling excited, they're excited for summer. So that's really the only significance. It's more so just for setting and kind of the feeling of the chapter,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like, oh, this day specifically has any kind of relevance.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
I just
that's
thought that was
good.
really fun because
Yeah.
it definitely did do that. It like, well, anytime I read February, which was very present in the book, I was like, that's my birth month. Like it,
That
I don't know. It was
yeah.
just, I don't
It was
know.
Which
about
It,
you,
which
Renee.
it
It's about you.
was. No, he
no,
wrote
which
it
is
just for me.
so funny because again, like I had a whole draft with no just years, and then my editor was like, "Hey, you should probably, maybe think about doing this. It would enhance this." I was like, "Oh yeah," and then I, finished it, and at the end, I realized that again, like yeah, February. February is also my birth month, so
Yes.
I think it was just like unconsciously doing it. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, so
It is
that's
the
really
best
funny
month
you
of
say
the
that.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. No bias.
No.
So, what are you guys? What is the astrological sign?
I think I'm technically an Aquarius still.
Okay,
Aquarius,
I'm a
yeah.
Pisces,
So you're
so
like the end of the month.
I'm the end of the month. I'm
Yeah.
very in my feelings all the time. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aquarius is definitely still are a little bit in their feelings to
Oh
say the
yeah.
least, but
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. Well, I'm going to go in back into the heavier side. There was this
Mhm.
one quote that like touched me. Um, and it was trying to end my life wasn't selfish, but taking up space in a world I don't care to be in is. Ugh, like, how'd you even think of that? That was so good.
man,
So deep.
again, I think I just really wanted to describe as best as I could how somebody who feels like alone for again, for no apparent specific reason feels. Um
Mm,
and yeah, I workshopped that scene a lot, and there was a lot of different lines that worked and some that didn't. And basically, I wanted each sentence that Izzy said in that whole scene to have like if he stopped talking right then and there, that
mm,
sentence told you how he felt.
Mhm.
So that's really just like that sentence and a lot of the sentences or every sentence. It's just I wanted to write something where it was like if he decided to stop talking right then, you understand what he's going through. But obviously he wants, he's really, really outpouring and he's really kind of hitting um his point of like of breaking. So Um, yeah, that one was just the best way that I felt like he could describe what he was feeling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you hear that all the time when it comes to people ending their lives, like, oh, it's very selfish. They
Yeah.
had families or they had friends to think about, like, or even in movies when somebody is, on that kind of path, you see characters like tell them, don't be selfish, don't think about everybody else. And it's like the flip side of that is, well, isn't it selfish to stay in this life if like I feel like I
Ugh,
don't matter or I feel like I don't need to be in it?
yeah.
Um, so yeah, just kind of like portraying that and really kind of letting Izzy pour his heart out, I guess, with each sentence. So yeah, that's that. It was a lot of revisions and a lot of like intentional writing, and a lot of tears because I just felt like he's a character, but I felt like I could feel what he was feeling.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I'm just glad that it hit home. It seems like for sure. So
I did. I was
Yeah.
telling my husband about the book, and he thinks it's so cool what we're doing. But he wanted to know, how did writing, and he hasn't read the book yet, but how did writing this book change you at the
Mm.
time?
how did it change me? Okay. So when it comes to like on a personal level, it changed me in the way that I've kind of, I don't know if you've seen it. I kind of talked about this in a couple of my TikToks, but I've like have said that this book really saved my life, um, in the sense that again, like I've had my own struggles growing up and I've had my own things to deal with, but like this book was very cathartic for me. It was like I was in therapy with myself, and I really was able to like pour emotions out and pour deep thoughts out that I had never wanted to express, even in therapy sessions. Like I've gotten really deep with people, but I've never gotten to this level of just feeling, vulnerable. So that was really life changing because I realized that if I can do that with myself, if I can really open myself up, then what else can I do? I can really do whatever I want to do. Um, and then on a not career level, but more outside of like the personal level, it just validated me, um, to know that people purchased the book, finished the book, and had an opinion on it. Like whether it's a great opinion or they just didn't click with it, they still purchased it and they still had thoughts on the book,
Mhm.
and that really changed. Because when it comes to and it's hard to I still have imposter syndrome when people are like, oh, you're a writer or you're an author. Like technically, yeah, I am, but I don't feel like it sometimes. I don't feel like an author or a writer, but I am. Like I have to remind myself, like, you published a book, you got it out, and you have had people reading it. So like, yeah, you are. So when it comes to that, I just kind of validated how I feel, validated writing is an art, so it kind of validated my art form, I guess you can say. Um and it's just like it's giving me the confidence that I feel like I was lacking before. And now it's like, hey, if you can write basically I have a ton of other stories in development now that I've always had for years, but I just never felt confident in writing them further. But after this book, it was like, hey, you can do this. You can
Mhm.
really, you have a footing. You clearly there's at least one person who enjoyed the book, so like, write for them. Um, so yeah, it gave me just confidence to finish something and say that I did it. And now I'm super excited for specifically my next project, but for everything that's to come.
I
That's
love that.
amazing.
You know what? Right for the haters too, because
Yes.
some part of it resonates with them, and a lot of it, like whenever I've hated a book, sometimes it's because it addressed something that I didn't want to talk about, or like
Oh,
I didn't
that's
want to address
good.
within myself. So yeah, I love that you said the fact that they even purchased the book and just experienced it, because they did. And whether or not they see the value in it is a different story, but it's so good. I really like really genuinely look forward to reading more of what you write. So
Thank
please,
you.
please put more out
Yeah,
because
please
yeah,
Yes.
don't stop.
yeah.
Yes.
That was going to be a question we had. Are you writing another book?
Yeah, yeah. So I gave myself a little break after publishing this book, and because I had just been sitting with the story and just tweaking it and everything for, for almost 4 years since COVID. So I really just wanted to let my brain rest. So I took
Hmm.
a couple months off to really just let my brain rest. And um, even in the meantime, though, like I was talking to book talk influencers and everything, trying to like promote the book. So I didn't really let my brain rest, but in that sense, I did. But as of like late July, early August, I started writing my next book, and I'm so excited for that. It's a little different. I'll tease it a little bit. It's a little bit of a mixture between a like mystery thriller and I guess you could say romance. So
Ooh.
yeah, it's centered around a female and a male lead, but yeah, it's very different from this book, but like still has key aspects of reality. Like if when you read this book, I feel like you kind of feel like you're reading something that can happen and something that probably has happened in life, and I kind of wanted to keep that theme because I feel like books are great to escape in and they're fun to kind of like fantasize about, but I just love reading books where it's like, oh man, I feel like this is real. I feel like I'm reading a movie or like something that's really happening. So
I
yeah,
say
that's
that all the
that's
time,
that's what's
don't
next.
I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's like I think there are parts of, at least I'm speaking for myself, when I read a book, regardless of whether or not I like it, part of it stays with me and sits with me. It's like part of it's like still on my shelf. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to I think that you kind of even hit on that romance between West and June a little bit, and
Yeah.
We
so I'm
love a good
excited.
slow
We
burn.
do. We do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see you play around with that dynamic more and grow that.
Yeah,
That was so fun to read too.
Yeah, no, that's
considering.
that's awesome. That's great to hear. I mean, to be honest, it was hard not to develop their love story a little bit more because it is like they're just such fun characters, and I feel like together they would have such a fun story.
Hmm.
But, you know, I just felt like for the book, it didn't make as much sense to like really really progress it. But I definitely could have. But yeah, I'm excited to dedicate like a whole book to you know, that kind of like just that tension of like love, I guess you can say.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm really excited for you guys to read it. Hopefully, I would love my goal is to basically release a book every year. So yeah, hopefully summertime next year it'll be like fully edited and we can go from there. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, great.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say,
fun.
considering you write like healthy characters, we're also always loving like a healthy relationship kind of. I mean, this is inside things between me and Renee, but we do. There are books we will read with like just very immature men and whatnot, and we're just like,
I hear you.
why
I
do
do the
they do
same.
this? So like having read very emotionally mature men in Roots Run Deep, we're like, your second one's obviously going to be amazing in the romance. So,
Yeah.
okay, well, I want to know what your favorite book of all time is, and then your favorite book you read this year.
Okay. Favorite book I read this year. Let's start with that since it's obviously earlier. So I read the entire Red Rising series this year. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that
Hmm.
series, but
I've
yeah,
read the first one.
I completely devoured that whole series. And I would say the first three I like absolutely loved. The ones following that were not my favorite, but those are definitely my favorite. And it's funny because I love like sci-fi books. Like I said, I kind of love escaping in books sometimes. Um, so I read a lot of stuff like that where it's not necessarily real life, but I could never write it. Like I will never write sci-fi or anything like that. It's just not my thing. Um, so yes, those are my favorite this year so far, and all time, all time. So honestly, I probably would say this book like sat with me more than any other book, and I think it's just like, yeah, it was probably the most raw book I've ever read that sat with me. So it's probably going to be A Thousand Splendid Suns. I absolutely love that book.
I
Yeah.
love how in the
Irina.
same sentence you said my favorite book of all time and the worst book of all time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
No,
read my Goodreads review for Red Rising. I don't
no,
know. I think there
I
was too
totally
much
get it.
male anger in there for me.
I totally get it. I totally get it. But I hope that you see like the fact that I could read Red Rising and then like A Thousand Splendid Suns and stuff. Like I really have a range of books that I
Mhm.
love, and
Yeah.
um that's why when I write, like I feel like I can pull from so many different things, because when I write women too, like June and Stella, I really truly feel like this is a woman that I like know. Like I feel like I
Mhm.
know this girl, and I feel like it's raw and it's real, which is super important to me, because I do feel like when I read male authors, women are just kind of, whether they're like, written in a way that's ancient, I guess is a good way to put it, or not. I just feel like I can resonate and like really write a good female character, because I just love books like, yeah, A Thousand Splendid Suns is, yeah,
So
probably, yeah,
good.
that's the book. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's very touching. But you brought something up. I actually loved the way you wrote the female characters from, your own male point of view. Like they weren't over the top, and like the wife, she was so respectful of like her husband doing guy things, and she wasn't like, jealous. And it was just that I loved the girls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely
Good.
came from a place of maturity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, good. That makes me happy, because like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's obviously very scary to write female point of views, just because I've obviously do not have it, but I'm glad that I do it well, because I think it's so important, and especially to books, like even though this book is pretty, you can say it's male dominated because of just the amount of characters that are in it. Like if I did not have June and Stella in the book, like it wouldn't be the same book. Like they are
Mhm.
so important to the story. So yeah, that makes me super happy.
Stella was so strong as like a mother and a wife myself. She was like, "Here you guys go, take his last minutes alive," and
Mhm.
I'm like, "No, those are my minutes." Like
Yeah,
she's a tough
yeah.
woman.
She's definitely like the unsung hero of the book for sure.
Mm,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
I do want to touch really quick on, I think that you painted grief really well as well in this book. And there's a quote that you talk about where you say, "But as long as any of us have air in our lungs, you will be breathing too." And I think that this really wraps up, like, so I have a family, I lost a family member to suicide. I never had the opportunity to meet them, but I carry grief that for somebody that I never met. And I think that this quote really sums that up of what I feel. It's that their their presence is still with us, despite the fact that they no longer physically are. And I know that it was one of the most highlighted quotes in on Kindle, but um, I just thought that was so beautiful, and I think that that really highlights the theme of the book as well, just with losing Buddy and
Mm.
the tension with Izzy and the camaraderie between all of the friends. I think, yeah, so good.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, it's funny just because when I was writing this book, it was really just like three things. It was like friendship, growing up, mental health, and then like dealing with trauma, I guess. And with trauma is loss.
Mhm.
And yeah, I've lost people that, meant the entire world to me, and I've lost people at a young age. Um, so just growing up and like feeling like this anger of why, I guess, because especially when you're a kid, you don't really understand loss, and you don't really understand why things are happening. And as an adult, I really realized that, like, kind of what that quote means is just like, hey, if as long as I'm living, or as long as I'm breathing, like I can have them with me, and that's
Yeah.
not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that they're with me just in here, even though they're not physically with me. And really like accepting that, and being happy about the fact that I'm still living. So like, yes, a piece of them will always still be living. So
Yeah. I thought that was just like the best way to sum up the ending too, and
Mhm.
like the list of all of his favorite memories, and just yeah, it was so beautiful.
Thank you, thank you.
Is there anything else you wanted to touch on, Irina?
Like I liked seeing the difference in Izzy. That was really cool for me to see. Oh, there was this one part, and it was so random where it was dated to, I think, because they were very early on, still in February, and then there was like bam, June, and it was, I believe it was Stella talking, doing like a eulogy, if I remember correctly. Where they were talking about the funeral. It, like, we hadn't known yet what was going on with Buddy at all. So I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, he still goes through with it again. And then, like, looking back, it's, I just love all the little nuggets you left to where you can, like, where I literally had to go back and, like, okay, hold on. Like, yeah, that was
Yeah,
really cool. I love when a
yeah,
book does that.
yeah. I mean, multiple timelines in a book is like my favorite. I absolutely love multiple timelines. Um, and even like even A Thousand Splendid Suns, it's not necessarily like simultaneous, but you do see like multiple
Yeah.
timelines. And that's always just been something that I absolutely love. So I wanted to write something where it was like, and I've had people tell me this, like, hey, I had to pay attention to the chapter. Like I had to pay attention to what date we were in and what what was going on. And I wanted that, and that's another reason why the book isn't like 350 pages. I wanted like each page and each chapter to really matter.
Hmm.
Um, because I just felt like it was a story that you can I could have really gotten lost with, and I could have really like kind of drifted away from just like the key and the central point of what I was trying to get to. So yeah, the fact that, and I've had a lot of people say like, oh, I had to really like go back and like see what date and all that stuff. That's really why I wrote it, because I wanted people to like really pay attention to what was going on, how the characters were feeling in this time of year, or um,
Hmm.
especially the funeral and everything. So yeah, I'm glad that it worked.
Yeah, I think that was it. I mean, my last little random thought was I teared up at Sean's letter on Buddy's wedding day. I don't know why that hit me so hard. I think at that point I was like, okay, like something's gonna happen because we're getting a lot of Buddy references. Like something is, but it was still a major plot twist. But that one,
Yeah,
that one
yeah,
touched
and
me.
it's so funny because Sean is really like the glue of the group. Like he's really you can see it in the beginning of the book. Like he's the one who's making phone calls. He's
Right.
the one who's like, hey, how are you guys doing? I had a bad day at work. Like I just really wanted to talk to you guys, or see what's going on. And um I've always felt like in my life specifically, like I've kind of been, the one to make effort, like the one to pick up the phone, the one to see how people are doing and stuff. And like I've always gone to the point where it's like, oh well, if they're not going to show effort, then why am I showing effort? You know?
Right.
And I realized like while writing this book, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you want somebody in your life and you're literally the one showing effort, then fine. Like it's okay. It's okay if that, as
Mm,
long as it doesn't like tax you enough to where, it affects the relationship. Um, keep doing it. Keep
yeah.
showing the effort. Keep being that friend, or keep being that person that, because you really don't know how much it means to the other person.
Yeah,
Like
you
they may
don't.
they may
Yeah.
never express it, but like it may matter a lot. So I just wanted Sean to really I wanted him to kind of be that person where it's like he does not care. He's always going to be the one putting in the effort. He's getting beat up on all the time. He's like, he's this
Yeah.
guy that, from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, he's not the, I guess I wouldn't say top friend, but like he's the glue guy. He's really the person that kind of keeps them all together throughout the years and stuff. So, yeah, I'm glad that because that is the moment, right? That's the moment where it's like Buddy could have picked anybody,
Mhm.
um, but like collectively they're like, no, Sean is the one who's going to deliver this speech. Like
Hmm.
Sean
Mhm.
is the guy because he is that guy. So yeah, I'm so happy that we did this because you guys are hitting on everything that I wanted to be hit on. Like I wanted to write this book, and there's so many things that I wished people would see. So the fact that you guys like actively are saying, "Hey, I noticed this and I noticed that," like it really is means the world to me, seriously.
Oh, we'll
It was
keep
all
writing.
you.
Yeah, we're so excited to continue to follow you. Where can people follow you on socials?
Yeah, so I did not have any social media before writing a book. And then I quickly realized like, hey, probably not going to sell a lot of books if I don't have a
Yeah.
social media presence. So I'm solely on TikTok right now, just because I again I'm not really a big social media person, but yeah, I'm solely on TikTok. Chris Strong is my name, and I think my TikTok C Strong stories on there. Um, and obviously on Goodreads, I'm on Goodreads as well. So yeah, those are two pretty much the main ones, and then we'll see if I cross the line and make it Instagram eventually. But yeah, those are the main ones for now.
All right.
I
Well, thank you.
realized you
Yeah.
didn't.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, Renee.
go
I
ahead.
was
No,
going to
you go
say,
ahead. You go ahead.
when we announced that we were reading your book about a month ago, I totally tagged a different Christopher Strong.
Oh
I was like,
yes,
that's not him. We're going to untag that.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the one downside to having like a super generic name. I even had it's funny like on Goodreads there's another Chris Strong or Christopher Strong, and for some reason he like took not he didn't take credit, but like he added my book to his list. So I had to like email Goodreads and prove that the book was mine, and
Oh my
it was
gosh.
this whole thing.
Uh,
But yeah, that is the one downside about having a generic name, I will say.
Yeah.
it's a strong name. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Good one, Renee.
Yeah, I had to. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Everyone, go buy Chris's book, The Roots Run Deep, on Amazon. And we look forward to reading what you put out there next. Thank you again for making your like the people that read this just feel so seen and validated. And yeah,
Great.
thank you for honoring that and following that. I'm really glad that this exists in the world, and I know there are so many other people that do as well. So
Mm,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
thank you so much.
yeah.
Again, thank you for allowing me to have this space to even discuss the book. And I will definitely be back on the show if I'm allowed
Yeah.
with talks of the next book if I'm
Yeah,
allowed.
we
So
would love that. We would love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, such an honor for you being
Yeah,
here. So
thank you so
thank
much.
you.
thank you guys.
And
Thank you so much.
we hope you all enjoyed listening and stay tuned for next week.
Yeah, see ya.